Exciting times. It's winter, but I see the first glimpse right there of color in the garden. Snowdrops are coming up. Isn't that amazing? It's very exciting. And I look around the garden, I see a lot of other things. It's hard not to this time of year. Things that I would like to do, that I'm itching to do. For example, I'm itching to do some garden cleanup. But I know if I really want to draw beneficial bugs to take care of the bad bugs in my garden, I'm going to have to be a little more patient. And that's a hard thing to do this year. Tell you what, I had a really interesting presentation that I attended. An Iowa State University bug expert, an entomologist who works with the diagnostic lab, gave a presentation at the Des Moines Botanical Garden and drew a lot of master gardeners and garden enthusiasts and longtime plant lovers and wildlife folks to take in his presentation about garden pests. And, you know, pests and guests, actually, he calls it. Now, he would say there's no such thing as a pest per se, just maybe a bug that might be not beneficial to our interests as humans, as gardeners, as farmers, as you name it. Sometimes populations get out of control, and that's when problems arise, and that's when we see them as pests. But it's a way of looking at the garden and all of its visitors in a different light that certainly is eye-opening. And that's what I'm always thinking about as a master gardener, but as a longtime garden gal and former farm gal, I'm thinking about every little thing that I now draw to my garden, whether it's wildlife or bugs or animals. Even got to think about the dog footprint when they're here in the yard. So it's certainly lessons to be learned every day out in the garden, and I think about that. I wanted to share with you some of the insights from this brilliant perspective of, you know, if you ever wanted to know what kind of plants could I maybe put in my garden to take care of or at least reduce the population of some of those bad bugs that are going after either my vegetables or my flowers, or maybe they're just bothering me in the backyard and I can't really enjoy my garden. I want you to listen into some of the good things that Zach had to say, and let's play that now.
I mean, there's millions of species of insect worldwide, and only a very small proportion of them are actually harmful to human systems and humans themselves. So I think it's really easy when we get into gardening, we see an insect we're not familiar with, we immediately have that gut reaction of like, what is that? I've never seen it before. Is it something feeding on my plants? 99.9% of the time it's not. And even if it is that even something we have to worry about? Feeding on our plants or causing damage? Pests, things that we call pests, have very beneficial qualities in the landscape if we spend enough time thinking about it. The main thing is that if we don't have a landscape with pests, what are beneficials going to be doing? They're not going to be there. Like if there's no food sources for the aphid consuming insect to eat, then they're not going to be there in the landscape. Well, I guess I can start with the pests. If you see a bunch of the same insect on a plant, it's more likely that that insect is going to be plant feeding. I'm generalizing here, there's so many examples on the contrary. But if you walk up to your plant and you see like a bunch of little tiny speck insects on a plant, odds are that's going to be plant feeding. Things that are predatory or things that are often considered beneficial in the traditional sense, you're probably only going to find one or two of them, or at the very least, that insect is going to be neutral in the landscape. So if you go up to a plant and you see one thing where you're like, I've never seen that before, is it feeding on my plants, is it a pest? Odds are it's probably not, even if it's plant feeding.
Zach raises a good point. We all have questions about bugs in our yard. And you know what, before I became a master gardener, if I would have seen something strange, I didn't know what it was, honestly, I probably would have just reached for some sort of insecticide, thinking it must be bad. I don't know what that is, but it's all over my plant, it can't be good. But becoming a master gardener put me in touch with people like Zach and so many other experts, arborists who know about tree prunings and the best trees to plant to benefit wildlife, that's going to grow the best in your particular zone and be hardy for Iowa's winters. Tons of information and people just like Zach. That's all part of being an Iowa Master Gardener. That's one reason why I love it. But also, it brings me in contact with other people like me who have an interest and a real thirst for knowledge. Having the passion is one thing, but without knowledge, you're just digging in the dirt. So there are lots of questions that I found answers to just by listening to Zach. For example, here's another point that he made.
Some really common beneficials that you only see like one or two of at a time. Spiders, really easy. Praying mantises, you don't usually see them clustered up. Green lacewings on the bottom left, and the sassafras on the top right. Things that we only see one or two of. Most of the time, and I would argue 99% of the time, you can just ignore it. You don't have to worry about seeing those things on your plants, even if they're plant feeding. So the end goal here again is to appreciate the beneficial qualities of pests. If we were to completely wipe out our gardens of plant feeding insects, there's no reason a beneficial insect would stick around in the first place.
Something else to think about in your garden as far as helping you out when it comes to managing some of the, what we would consider pests. Let's be honest, I don't think Japanese beetles are on a popularity poll for anybody. When they show up in your garden, you want to get rid of them. Am I right? Now, I can tell you, I had the most interesting thing happen when it came to Japanese beetles. I had a neighbor who put out one of those pheromone traps for Japanese beetles with all the best of intentions, and that's something that Zach even talked about in his presentation. Really what happens is that ends up drawing all of the Japanese beetles into your yard. You're trying to manage them, but instead it's like ringing the dinner bell, or it's like turning on the disco ball. It's time for a party in this yard, and they come from blocks around. And the following year is when you really have to deal with them. But there was an interloper that actually appeared when this pheromone bag was full of Japanese beetles, and she single-handedly took them out. Yes, I'm talking about possums. Did you know that possums love not just ticks, to eat ticks, but they actually love Japanese beetles? I know. Ever since then, possums have been welcome in my yard. In fact, there's one that I've even named Penelope. I don't shoo her away. I try to stop the dogs if they disturb her in the winter. You know what? She's got a role in my garden, and I realize that now. And so do the birds. Do you hear that tapping sound? That's a woodpecker who is going after, no doubt, bad bugs in my old maple tree, taking him out. That's his job. And this finch feeder back here, I make sure I keep that stocked so these guys don't take off during the winter, because I want them here to take care of not just Japanese beetles, because those small songbirds also like to eat Japanese beetles and other bad bugs and mosquitoes. But so do blue jays, robins. I do what I can to draw songbirds to my garden and keep them here. Not just to take care of mosquitoes and Japanese beetles, but you know, some of the other grubs and worms and caterpillars and grasshoppers that might be feeding on some of the plants that I put a lot of time into and want to see thrive. Now, there are also plants that you can plant, that you can put in your garden, that can draw more of those beneficial bugs to take care of the bad guys. So things like marigolds, zinnias, nasturtiums. I mean, those are pretty easy to grow. Just give them some sunlight and they'll appear. And so will the good bugs. So there's just so much to learn when it comes to that big picture of having a wildlife garden that has beneficial pests that will take care of some of the bad pests. One of the key things is, yes, leave some of this garden debris back there, just for now. All right, it doesn't have to be pristine. Now, I realize that's taking a chance, because wintering in this foliage and this dying foliage are the bad guys as well as the good guys. But I'm hoping there are more good guys than bad. In fact, this year, for the first time this past summer, I actually had a praying mantis in my garden for the first time. And we had bats chasing mosquitoes. I don't mind, you know. bring it. I think that's great. So you do what you can. It's all about trying to find a balance. And I hope that you think about some of those things when it comes to making plans for your spring garden, some seeds that you want to start, some things you want to grow or plant that maybe you're putting into action right now. Think about what you're really drawing to the garden and how that can benefit you and make your life a little bit easier. Because once you put insecticide down to take care of, you see a group of aphids on a plant, and oh my goodness, and you spray it down. Well, you're killing the aphids right there, but also bees that might be visiting, and ladybugs that would be on their way to eat those aphids. Now, I've had a collection of aphids that showed up on a showy milkweed plant or on ironweed. And if I just keep monitoring it, I watch it. And sure enough, in about 2 days' time, long before the plant is gone or even really damaged, ladybugs show up, or birds for that matter, and they take them all out. I didn't have to spray anything or do anything. Nature has a way of taking care of itself, for the most part. I mean, that's my goal anyway. I hope you give it a thought. Anyway, we've got always so much going on. This is the time of year when things start to change pretty fast. So it's not just snowdrops appearing in the garden. There's some little tulip, little tiny sprouts starting to come up. It's exciting. So I will keep you posted. I hope you subscribe. Let me know what questions you might have. And I hope you subscribe, and we'll keep track of all the comings and goings and the early stars of the early spring garden. I can't wait. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again soon.